Yes.
We'll officially call the meeting to order. My name is Jerry Morgan, Chairman of the Commission. We've got Dan Doss to my left, hotelier and restaurant owner here in town. Joe Hafner, City Councilman. Bill Hurt, restaurant owner. And Chris Gibson, City Council member. Matt Crawford is unable to be here today, so we'll go ahead and start with the review of the minutes of the last meeting. We've sent those out ahead of time, asking if there's any changes to those minutes.
Move to adopt unless changes are noted.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. First order of business, we're going to change the agenda up just a little bit to make things flow a little easier. We're going to look at the current and estimated cash positions, refer to the overhead on the financials. This is a snapshot of basically where we're at currently with our financials. So far this year, this is through the end of September, we had funding requests that were approved last year or this year for 2018 of $755,000. So far, we've paid out $325,000 and have unpaid grants to pay out for this year, $410,000. We have a couple large ones, ASU and the Barbecue Fest, and some of those items that we pay out towards the end of the year for cash flow purposes. If you look at the very bottom, here we go. Our current cash position on hand as of 9/30 was $504,000. I've projected revenues for the last 3 months of the year of $55,000. So that'd be $165,000 in additional revenue. That'd put our cash plus expected revenues at $669,000. If you take away the $410,000 that we still have to pay out for 2018, that'd leave us an estimated cash position at the end of the year of $259,000. That's typically where we like to maintain that at the end of each year or during the year, because that gives us the ability to cash flow these events as we need to. Are there any questions on the 2018 revenue and expenses as of 9/30 of 2018? Okay, if there's no question, I'd ask for a motion to pass those.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Now we'll look at the review of the tax collections for 2018 and previous years. Year to date, we're at $498,000 through the first 9 months of the year. This compares to $509,000 for the first 9 months of last year. So we're currently flat to slightly declining from last year. If we were to annualize that with an estimated $55,000 each month for the next 3 months, we'll end at $663,000. This compares to 2017 at $673,000 and 2016 of $691,000. So you can see we're giving up a little ground here with collections. A lot of that, we did have a significant increase from 2013, 14, 15, and 16. So we kind of plateaued out on hotel revenue over the last 18 months. Some of this may be due to the Airbnb, and also some people are booking online that may cause this to be for us to have some cuts in that area. I know that's something that Bill and the city are looking into from the city side and still working on that to see if that's impacting us. But we are researching that, as you know. Regardless, these numbers are a benchmark for where we are with being able to allocate funds going forward. Obviously, as we're able to increase the A&P revenues, we're able to give out more. If we're flat, we're obviously not able to do that. Can you pull up the STR report? Is that in there?
It's not on here. Unless it says.
Let's see if
Is it this?
let's see if that's it. Yeah, go to that. Go over to the far right. No, go back to that one. Yeah.
We didn't rehearse very good.
Yeah. Can you increase the size of that? Okay, yeah, far right. Okay. The last meeting, we agreed to subscribe to an STR report. After looking at the revenues being flat, we decided to do some additional research on occupancy, and there is an STR report which records the different hotel occupancies. And looking at the last 12 months, it's showing about a 6% decline year over year for the occupancy. So that pretty much goes right along and is very consistent with what we've seen on our revenues for the tax collection. So a couple of notes, that's kind of the financials and what we're looking at on the trends for the 5 years. Before we get into the actual grant cycle, I'd like to make a couple of notes to help us kind of move this along expeditiously. First, before that, I want to introduce Craig Pomeranke. Craig, if you don't mind standing. Craig just moved to town about a month ago. He is our new general manager for the Embassy Suites and Convention Center here in Jonesboro. We had lunch a couple of weeks ago. He has significant experience with conventions and opening event centers like this. He has a lot of great ideas. We've talked quite a bit about working to ensure that we fill up his convention center and also make sure it overflows to the other hotels. As y'all remember, all the other hotels were very, very supportive of this convention center, and many of them knew that it might cut into their revenue at the start, but also we're working hard to make sure we fill up the events to roll over to the other hotels. So anyway, I'm sure he's going to be a huge part of our success going forward, and we just want to welcome him. So anyway, we want to welcome you, Craig. Thank you for coming to our town. So. Another thing that we are working on as a commission is the advent of a Convention and Visitors Bureau. We're in the process exploring the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We're one of the few cities our size that is without one, and this is much needed to help coordinate efforts with Craig and the new convention center. Actually traveled to north of Little Rock yesterday, and we visited with their Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is quite active, and we're looking at other ones. We're not going to take any action on that today, but probably our next meeting we will spend a significant amount of time on that. The big difference with our A&P compared to most other cities' A&Ps is many of the others have several full-time employees that help coordinate events, coordinate tournaments, sporting events, just several different things, and most of those are paid by the A&P. We don't do that. Pretty much 98% of our funds go back into the events that we're funding today. So at some point, we're going to look at how do we coordinate those efforts with the schools, the convention center, the different sporting facilities that we have here in town, but that's something that we will be focusing on probably our next meeting. Another thing that the A&P has been working on over the last several months, if you've been to some of the last meetings, is we're in the process of doing a website for Jonesboro tourism. We've begun the development of a website for it. It's called visitjonesboroar.com. We've started the design process with Amy Pickens. I think I saw Amy coming in earlier, Amy. And if you get a chance, go visit it. Again, it's just the very start. She's been working on it for about 2 weeks. Our goal is for this to be the main website when somebody's coming to town that they've never been to Jonesboro before, they're coming with their ball team or for a concert. They can go on there, they can look at the different events, they can look at the hotels, they can look at restaurants, they can look at the parks, pull up maps and everything. So we're getting really, really close on rolling that out. So anyway, Amy we looked for about a year to find somebody that we felt comfortable with, and it really, really looks good. So we will request funding for that here in just a little bit. The next thing that we've talked about in the last several meetings, I know some of y'all haven't been here if we hadn't had the grants, is legislative audit. This has really changed up the way we've had to evaluate the requests. I know Bill Resnicek has explained this before, but I'm going to ask him just to speak for a couple of minutes, just explaining the changes that have occurred over the last the last year in that area.
Sure. If you're aware, the A&P functions under Arkansas Code, Section 2675-600, and specifically Part 606 spells out how the funds can be used by the A&P Commission. And a lot of you know that in the 2016 audit cycle, we had a finding for one of our applicants. And that finding found that the funds were not necessarily used for items that were expanding the promotion of the city, that they were used for an operational nature. So in our meetings with legislative audit, what they were very clear about, and they reiterated this several times, and I have before the commission here, as well as individual applicants, is there were really three things that they said we needed to look for. One, that this funding indeed promoted the city through some type of advertising or outreach. Two, that it was something that the organization would not have otherwise done. And three, that that funding was not part of their normal operating budget. So in essence, what they were saying was we had to make sure that we were doing things that were an outreach for the city of Jonesboro and not subsidizing operations of the organization. So I know Jerry and I have talked about this quite a bit. We revised the application this year. We added some language, and part of the problem with that coming up on the audit in 2016 is once that happens, that becomes a focus of future audits. So that means we have to really do our due diligence going forward in reviewing the applications and doing the follow-up and getting the evidence after the fact that the funds were expended as they were originally indicated on the application.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that explanation. You did a lot better than I could. You know, another part of this that was discussed in those audits is us moving away from continuously funding of organizations year after year. The A&P state and local statutes weren't meant for continuous funding. It was meant for projects and seed money to build up projects and then move on to the new projects. I know this isn't popular with the organizations that have received funding over the past several years, but it has been discussed going back to the last 3 or 4 years of grant requests and grant meetings by the previous commissioners and chairman. As we move forward and look at these requests today, and if you receive funding over the past 3 or 4 years, it's important to be ready, whether we start this cycle or next, that over the next couple of years, your organization be able to become self-sustaining without the assistance of A&P funds. You know, our main barometer of success is an implementation and usage of these funds is the hotel tax revenue and hotel occupancy. So as this trend is flat and slightly declining, along with the critique of the legislative audit, we have no other options other than to rethink how we are allocating money. It's not to say your organization will get completely cut out of funds. It's to say that we're going to look at it and say what part of this is actually marketing the city of Jonesboro and the events versus just running the event. So the first of order of business that we'll need to do administratively is approval of our administrative expenses. Part of these have already been approved. First, I'd like to welcome Christy Appleton. She's our new executive assistant. She took Beth's place at the last meeting and is doing an unbelievable job. That's probably who y'all have talked to quite a bit. But combined administrative expenses we have combined the administrative expenses into one category for this next year for a maximum of $25,000. Those include the administrative assistant, the STR report, which was about $1,600, and we'll also including website design that we have a bid of for $1,650. If y'all have ever done website design, you'll realize that is very cheap. That may go over some hours, but that's kind of the baseline for that. So I would request approval of administrative expenses to cover these items and any miscellaneous items not to exceed $25,000 for 2019. Also note that all additional miscellaneous items will be reviewed by the commission. So I'll ask for approval of that.
Move to adopt.
Okay.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll get into the 2019 applications. Here's the process we'll use. We've got a lot of people here. We've got close to 30 applications that we reviewed. We've kind of really worked hard to refine this process over the last 3 or 4 years to make it simple and the best use of y'all's time. So here's how we'll do it. It's pretty similar to what we did last year. One of the main things is our forms and packet that we sent out. We're able, if everybody submitted everything that was requested in there, we're able to go through that packet and basically see all the information that we need to make decisions, especially on events that we've had in the past. Obviously, with new events, we'll ask some questions, but the packet has given us 95% of the information that we need. As we did last year, we will go through the list and ask questions as needed. There may obviously be more questions for the new organizations that are requesting. Please note, the board is familiar with the majority of these events and organizations. A long presentation doesn't mean you will get additional funds allocated. These are not sales presentations, they're fact-finding questions. One major factor we are reviewing this year is what is the true impact on the hotels. That's going to be a consistent. Yeah. We also are looking at where the profit's going from these events. You know, if your event's generating a profit, where is that going? Is it going back into the community? Is it going to individuals? Is it going just to particular single teams? And that's another factor that we will be looking at. What we'll do is we'll go through the list, we'll ask all the questions, and then we'll go back through and make recommendations on the funding on the sheet on the overhead, but we will not make approval on all those until the very end. That way the people at the bottom aren't getting cut if additional funding is made at the top. So that's kind of the process that worked really good last year. And last but not least, please understand, all of us up here are volunteers. We're not paid people. We've spent significant hours looking at these packets. I know I've probably spent the last 3 days studying these. It's not an easy task cutting funding down. I promise you, if we had $1 million, which is about the request, we'd give it all out. Unfortunately, we don't. We've got limited funds, and so we're doing the best we can to impact Jonesboro, and we're also answering to the hotel owners. I talk to them probably on a weekly basis, if not more. After the weekends, I get calls, you know, this event really did good for our hotels, or this event didn't do good for our hotels. So, you know, we have to answer to them. That's where these funds are coming from, and it's important for the hotel owners that we're being responsible with these funds. So first, Joe, if you'll pull up the list of requests. Are there any questions from the commissioners before we get started with this process? Okay. Appreciate y'all's time as we go through a lot of the procedurals. Okay. We'll just start at the top. Again, we'll go through and ask questions as needed. If you were here at the last year's meeting, we have made multi-year contracts, or not contracts, but multi-year commitments on some of these that I'll go through already. The first one is the administrative expenses. The second is we did the Baseball Boosters Turf Program, $85,000 a year for 5 years. Along with that, also we did, at the last meeting, we went ahead and approved the backstops for softball complex. We did that because of the timing. If we're able to fund that at our last meeting, they were able to do a significant amount of work and do a lot of cost savings instead of having to go back in because they're doing a lot of work there. You know, as part of the turf program at baseball, we were also to work with the city to do significant lighting at softball and the new restroom facilities, and I think there's a plan to overlay the parks out there this next year. So we're getting significant improvements at both of those. Danny had done a big presentation last meeting on softball. So also we did a 3-year commitment for the Red Wolves Foundation, $100,000 a year for 3 years. So those are already in place. Before I go further, we will need to set a target for amount that we will give out this year. You know, based on the estimated revenues of this year of $663,000, again, we do have a cash reserve of around $250,000. I'd like to make a starting baseline recommendation of grants of about $675,000. Are you okay with that? Yes, and that will include the ones that are already committed and the administrative expenses. So, and again, that's kind of our baseline. That's our goal. We do have the variance to go above that or below that as we did last year. So, yeah. Any other questions before we get started? Okay. We've covered the ones that have already committed. We'll start with the ASU women's bowling. The way we sorted these out, we did put the new ones first so we can ask those questions. I know this is an ongoing event. Can you please, as you come up, please just state your name too, so we'll have it for recording?
My name is Justin Kostick. I'm the head women's bowling coach at ASU.
Okay. And y'all have had this event for the last several years.
I have.
Okay.
Yep.
Asking funding this year for,
It's to pay for the facility of hijinks, and then there's cost of officials and the hospitality of running the event as well for the teams.
okay.
Its tournament is January 11th through the 13th. Teams come in on Thursday, leave Sunday. I get 20 teams. You're probably looking at about 300 or 350 nights for the hotel rooms.
I guess the difference, I mean, y'all have had this before without our funding.
Yeah, I have had funding once before. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Part of it is expenses gone up at hijinks for hosting the event.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
So you have a total budget of 9,000
Yes.
and you're asking 6,500
Yes.
from the A&P. Seems like a pretty big gap.
I have some money budgeted in my actual budget for the event. There's, teams that pay to come to the event. So there is money there to help produce the
So
event.
my question is, are you getting any funds from any other, like ASU or anybody, or?
There is funding there to be there, but most of the event is paid for, a lot of the event's paid for through entry fee.
Any other questions?
Well, just looking at the advertising budget, the advertising budget on the event is only $500. So I kind of feel that 6,500 is a little bit large of an ask, given that fact.
Hey, Bill, your microphone was on.
Better than 6,500.
What we'll do is make recommendations as we go, fill them in, and then come back and vote on them later and adjust them as we need it. Again, if we make a recommendation, that doesn't mean that won't change before the end. So I'm hearing a recommendation of 2,500. Okay. Okay. We'll just go with that for right now. Just,
No problem.
Again, we'll vote on them towards the end. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Next one we have is Elite Arkansas Training. Mr. Harris? And you'd mentioned this before, came up before. One of the biggest questions is the total budget for this event's $11,100, but the amount requested was $20,000.
Yes, sir. We're doing 4 events. So that was for the single event, and then multiply that by 4.
Okay. Okay, so each event's around $11,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how much will I guess if you have all these events, if you're able to get the maximum amount from us requested, how much would be the profit of this organization? Would it be this 41,000 on this financial statement, close to that? I think that was the previous one from 16 and 17.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where do those funds go, the profit from the events?
Well, right now we're building a new facility out on Johnson going towards Brooklyn. So for these next events for next year, we're building a 2-court facility with volleyball, basketball. Then we also have Outback baseball facility, turf infield, so we can do soccer, baseball, and other outdoor sports. So the money for this would help fund that to bring more tournaments and events into Jonesboro, not only at Valley View where we're using right now, but at Elite Arkansas Training.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. recommendation?
Says it's new.
Yeah, have you received funding before?
No, this is my first time.
Okay. And we do have a seed money category that typically has a start of 5,000 and works its way down over the 3-year period in our guidelines. Obviously, that's just a guideline for something like that, so.
Yes, sir. And we had one event last year that did extremely well that we hosted at Valley View. It was kind of a trial run. We hosted it with another tournament provider out of Searcy, who we used their referees. Then we used the email list through him and other teams through him to bring them into Jonesboro. So instead of marketing just to Northeast Arkansas, we reached out to Little Rock, Conway, Searcy, and then up towards Russellville, which was a huge help to bring in new teams.
All right, so is the advertising budget, the 2,000, is that per event or is that total for all 4 events?
No, that is just per event.
So 8,000 basically for all 4? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
and that is strictly like just advertising, meaning like Facebook, any social media advertising, e-blast. So one of the things that we learned with our first event was going through one of the tournament providers in Searcy and Little Rock. They've been doing tournaments for the last 5 to 10 years, and they have a huge email list. So by working with them, we can use their email list, which obviously costs, but that is just the advertising, does not include the referees and like the building to rent.
Need a recommendation? 25? Okay. Okay, 2,500 is the recommendation from Bill. Any other thoughts or? Okay, well, just stick around. We'll see what we can do here.
All right, sounds good.
The next one is Jonesboro Public Schools, the David Daniel with the volleyball tournament.
Yes, David Daniel, Athletic Director at Jonesboro Schools.
one second, please, Mr. Daniels. I'm going to recuse myself from this one because my daughter plays on the volleyball team, and I'm also president of the JHS Athletic Booster Club, so
Okay.
I'll stay out of this one.
Okay, thank you. And again, I failed to mention
Lost
that.
20%.
I did fail to mention that if anybody has a conflict, if they're on one of these boards or some item like that, we'll just recuse ourselves and do that. So I know this is a very good packet. It's got the information in it. You are hosting this tournament.
Yes, we are. It starts next Tuesday, and we'll have 16 teams, one of those being Jonesboro, of course, from across the state. We do have some local teams this time, Paragould, Nettleton, and, well, of course, Mountain Home's really not that local. But the reason we're asking for money is we're not trying to make a lot of money on this event. The Arkansas Activities Association, in order to get the tournament, you have to bid on it, okay? And our bid was 95% of the gate. When we hosted in 2013, we didn't ask the commission for any money, but our gate receipts were like $5,400, and so our percentage, 5%, was like $300.
You give up 95% of the gate.
We give up 95% of the gate at $6. They set the price. I do know that we do have some teams spending the night, and matter of fact, they're having a little trouble because of the Arkansas Baptist Convention as well. So, but anyway, we're just looking for a little money to help us cover our cost and have a great event in Jonesboro.
You know, David and I are good friends, and I've explained this to him beforehand. I mean, there has been some discussion on does the A&P get into funding school tournaments and school state tournaments, because if we do that, you know, at what point, how many requests a year will we get? You know, I did ask him to please go ahead and present. Let's talk about it, because there's no rule against that. I think that was just something that was decided a long time ago. I guess my question is, do we want to consider this one, and then we can discuss that rule in the future? So.
Well, I know, speaking just from personal experience over the last 3 or 4 years, we have not funded any school functions.
I would,
about $1,000?
How many overnights are you thinking? as far as-
Well, Chris, the tournament starts on Tuesday. Some will come in Monday night, and just depends. You know, you lose, you go home. Probably, I know Greenwood is really good. They're going to be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night for sure. Depends on Russellville. It just depends. You know, it's just a guess on what the impact is going to be. You know, I had Jacksonville call yesterday and try and set up a meal with somebody. So it just depends. It's hey, you win, you get to stay, and you lose, you go home. So it depends on who it is, you know. And like I say, we're just trying to break even.
I'd make a recommendation of 1,500 this time around, and then we'll,
So you got 5 times your profit.
Well, let me tell you something, okay? I was counting on you. You're already in the program,
well,
okay?
we will,
Hey,
we'll do,
let me tell you something. You're going to be in the program regardless. Okay, I appreciate that.
he asked me for the logo, and I sent it to him, letting him know that I can't guarantee anything.
Yeah, I understand. And hey, I wasn't. I know there's no guarantees, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do.
1,500?
Yes. Okay. The next one we have is Nirvana Foundation and Foundation of Health, Safety, and Fitness Spring Clean Yoga Workshop, requesting $5,000. Okay. The budget is showing $5,850 for this event. Amount requested is $5,000. How much will y'all be bringing any revenue in from this event, I guess?
We're not looking to make much money. We're just looking to get the ball rolling. It just depends. We're hoping for at least 100 people to come to this event.
Okay. 100 people, how many will spend the night, do you think?
How much do you think?
Well, probably not a lot. We're marketing to 4 states: Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, and Texas. So we travel around to do 4 to 5 hours away to do seminars like this.
And we
So-
always stay in hotels and eat there. And so we thought, why are we always traveling every year to go to all these events? Why not bring someone to our place and let other people come to us?
Okay.
So to answer your question, we're hoping to use at least 10 hotel rooms.
Sure, leverage it up.
And we'll be renting a conference room at a hotel room for the event.
Okay. And you,
I'd recommend $1,000 to cover the advertising budget.
okay. $1,000 recommendation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one I have is Tigers Baseball Club of Jonesboro, requesting $50,000. Mr. Flory? Tell us a little bit about the event. We've read through, you are going to do scout game and then a Red Wolf Invitational. This is not a regular tournament as much as a scouting event.
So basically last year was the first year of the Tigers baseball organization. And what we're really built to do is, obviously we're developing youth players, but more importantly, we're trying to get exposure for both kids in this region, but also for our university. So we took part of one of our first scout games this year in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's put on by a group called 2D Sports. So the budgeting was really built off of information they had provided me of what it really costs to get it going. Given the fact of our connections to so many teams out of Missouri, Illinois, that are really my connections that we're going to bring in to Arkansas to play, they wanted to hold a second event that would really allow for us to bring coaches in, attract coaches in to come stay. These events are all a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday mandatory stay. And typically will range, scout games can range from 10 teams to 16 teams. The other tournament we're looking at trying to run closer to a 50 team, which that's where the expenses are really mounted into leasing facilities, ensuring we have people on staff to tarp fields and things of that nature to make sure that the event actually happens. try to prevent cancellations, which is a killer to all of us.
All right, so how would this differ in setup from like the extra innings showcase that's been going on for over 10 years?
So the extra innings showcase, that I'm familiar with, is normally a day-long event. What this is really trying to bring teams in from multiple states into one centralized location. It's not, and it's always at a college. And so Coach Raffo and I, we'd walk through it looking at how do we bring more kids into town, how do we get them more exposure to ASU rather than a stationary facility that's really built to hold those things. This group here is a lot more based on their social media. They're very, very strong at getting information out, publicizing the events for us in advance. They handle a lot of registration for us, but there will be some back office on our end.
Looking through the numbers, if we were to fund this $50,000, it would be from both events. From the way I figured it would have a profit of about $38,000 would be the profit. Where would those funds go to?
Well, the first piece of those funds would go back to securing the contract to run it again next year. That'd be well over 50% of it, and that's what would keep me from coming back here a second time. But the other piece of it is also going back to helping with our staffing. So as an example, Arkansas State University has volunteer assistant coaches in baseball. Being able to have them run the events and assist us in running the events actually allows us to pay them to keep them local, keep them solvent to where they want to stay here and provide here.
I mean, I think we all realize this would be a good event. It's just, I think one of the biggest challenges we have is just the amount of money requested for the amount of money that we have to give out with everything that we've already got with, giving out $675, and a lot of that's committed to other events. It really, being able to fund $50,000, I think you can understand, would be a real challenge for our organization. So
I won't walk away offended. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Well, I'll put in legwork, whatever we got to do, but I think it's big to get this off the ground.
Hey, wouldn't this kind of fall under the seed money category?
Yeah, it would fall under that. So seed money category, and again, it's a recommended guideline, but $5,000 for the first year, and then it steps down over the next 2 years.
I recommend 5.
Okay, we'll do recommendation of 5,000. Okay. Thank you, Travis. We appreciate what you're trying to do. Rodeo?
Hey, before you get started, I just want to, I called, I talked to Mr. Brown at the First National Bank Arena, and I think this is, you had in here 6,000, estimated spectators. It looks like the last 3 years that they had it, the numbers I was given, was around 5,000 attendance. So I think your 6,000's,
Right.
pretty reasonable. So thank you. 'Cause I know sometimes we get inflated numbers in here, so I appreciate you being reasonable.
Another thing I'd like to bring to attention here, that they gotten down here as a new request. We didn't have the rodeo this year, but in 17, I think the commission helped.
My understanding, we'd approved some funding last year, and you ended up not having the event. Is that correct? Or the
17 we had it.
Okay. So you are trying to get this back going, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And y'all were part of the one that we had previously, or familiar with that one, and just trying to, I guess, pick back up where that one fell off?
Well, actually, my father kind of helped get this thing started 20 some odd years ago, and along with several other people in the community, and I just got kind of involved in it like 3 or 4 years back after another company that quit due to rising costs of the building and new administration. I think they decided to give it up, so I want to try to keep it going because it's hometown for me.
So you're thinking 6,000 spectators. How many nights will this go? 2, 3 nights?
Well, actually, I think it went just a tad over 5,000, and we're trying, that's our goal, is to get 6,000. And then there will be 200 to 250 contestants competing. They usually bring somebody with them, so you're looking at 500 people there. So it's pretty close to 6,000 people.
Is this over a 2 or 3 day?
2 nights, but they'll normally come in a day early because a lot of them have to come in from out of state, several states out.
And you're anticipating about a $100,000 profit?
I don't know about that.
That's what's in the package.
Yeah, I got asked to do this presentation through a marketing director, a new marketing director, and I didn't agree with that part. But sure, that'd be nice, but I don't anticipate that. No. And then also that I don't know if she mentioned in the application, but our goal was we wanted to give back like $1 to $1 a ticket to future farmers like the FFA, and also a mentally challenged little kids ranch here locally called Indigo Ranch.
And y'all have a budget of $17,000 in marketing and advertising for 2019 is what they have in the packet, so.
And I know from the past, it's cost more than that, but that's kind of what she's got figured here. But
Okay.
What did we award last year that we ended up not utilizing?
I don't remember, I think
25.
2,500? Okay, that's the number I had in my head.
I said I didn't want you to think it was a new request.
Right, gotcha.
I don't know if you consider it new because it did skip a year, but
Right. Yeah, I think it was 2,500. so.
I'll make that same recommendation.
Yep.
Okay, recommend $2,500. Okay. Thank you. Hope it goes well this year. Okay, I think that does conclude all the new requests we have. Are there any other new requests out there that we have not talked to that we skipped? Okay. What we're going to do is get into the previous requests. And again, I think all of us are familiar with the majority of these. We've funded the majority of these before. I don't think we'll have to call everybody up here unless there's specific questions on those. And so we'll go through and just kind of look through here as we go. Again, you know, the tough job from us is looking at the continuous funding and making those recommendations as we go. I do want to ask Tim McCall. I know Tim said he had a meeting, would like to speak real quick first. Tim chairs the Downtown Barbecue Fest and Concert, and kind of a little background. This is an actual event sponsored by A&P, the A&P Commission. While none of us up here really do any work at all, Tim does the majority of it. It started as the sesquicentennial event years ago, and we've continued it since then as kind of a way to give back to the community. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. This year, kind of one of the stipulations last year is if this is a significant amount of money we're giving away or that we have given away, you know, one of the really important factors going forward that was important to me is making it into a dual night event to try to get people to stay overnight. And we were able to pick up a major sponsorship by Ritter Communications. I don't know if they want that number out there, but it was significant. It was significant. And it was the only way we were able to do it a dual night. So anyway, I'll let you kind of give a little bit history on what happened this year.
You're absolutely right. And without Ritter, there's no way we could have done a 2-night. And as you and I talked 100 times in the last 3 or 4 months, I mean, everything costs double. Stage, sound crew, lights, hotels, porta potties. I mean, everything's double. So, but we had a really, really good crowd this year. You know, Jerry mentioned something about making it into a 2-night event. And, you know, one of the things, and we've had a lot of meetings, just not specifically talking about the barbecue festivals per se, but about how to make this more of an arts and entertainment event. And I mean, El Dorado, I believe you sent me a text yesterday of a really cool thing that they're doing. It's the same principle as what we're looking at doing. hoping to try to make this more, not just music and barbecue, but food vendors and like the arts and entertainment is what we talked about as well, crafts and things like that. This year, we literally had to turn vendors away for space. At the last minute, we had met with the city a couple times and decided we'd close the other end of Union, and we're going to put a few down there, and we did. Next year, assuming we get funding and everything, we're going to try to do a couple of things a little bit different from logistics, and we're talking about that now to hopefully be able to bring more vendors in and add to the event. So,
Tell us the impact on the downtown merchants.
well,
Or the feedback.
I can tell you because I spent just about every afternoon the week prior to the event down there doing something. Of course, you have to go get food while you're down there, and talking to some of the folks in the restaurants and bars and stuff. They were expecting one of the biggest weekends of the year, especially with 2 nights. I think Lindsay in the crowd, and you're welcome to come up here, but I mean, she's the Downtown Jonesboro Association this year, last year as well, but this year really, really helped. It's a part of the event now, and they're really helping doing a lot of things. Lindsay's kind of on our team as well now, and I know she may be able to speak for some of the restaurants a little more than I can.
Yes, as far as the downtown merchants and the restaurants, I got some different statistics from each one. I mean, not everybody said the same thing, but it was all really positive. And one of the restaurants said they were full capacity both nights. Another said on a good weekend they see about $3,500, but on Barbecue Fest weekend they see about anywhere from $6,000 to $6,500. So double in sales, and like he said, the majority of them all say it's the biggest weekend of the year for them. And the only negative thing that one person had to say was that they wish we did it more.
One thing, I happened to be in Doe's, I guess it was Friday night maybe. I was talking to the manager there, and they help us as a little sponsor as well. But going into it, he said, I don't expect a huge crowd, given that we're not in true downtown. But after the event, I saw him, and he said, we were full both nights. He said that really surprised me, but he said, I was glad, and we'll want to be a part of it next year. So,
okay. Part of the feedback that I get from, it's a great event. I was down there. It's great. I also get feedback from hotel owners, and I did get feedback from one that didn't feel like their hotels increased. And again, we're making a dual night festival.
Right.
Is it more local people or not? And that's the question. I've got to share both sides, because that's the feedback I'm getting from the people that are paying these funds.
I've got a gut feeling I know who you're talking about, and I can't speak for that particular hotel, but I can tell you just this week, talking to the Hilton and Fairfield Inn and Suites, who have always tried to help us, and Mr. Dawes has helped us in the past many years as well. They both indicated that they had a lot of people staying in their hotels for the end. I mean, I just made a couple of quick notes. We got bands, we've got stage crew, sound and lights, about 40 to 45 barbecue teams with about 2 to 4 people on each of them. Not all of them are from out of town, but several are out of state. 35 to 40 barbecue judges, who 95% of those aren't from Jonesboro or in this area. They're from Memphis and surrounding states. And then 30 to 35 steak judges that sign up on the National Steak website as well, that aren't from necessarily in Jonesboro either. Those people got to stay somewhere unless they're sleeping in their car or something. But I mean, I know that there's people staying in hotels. I did talk to one hotel general manager earlier in the week, and we were just talking about trying, for next year, trying to determine a way to kind of capture that. And whatever we determine could be done for any of these other entities as well, but being able to track exactly who's staying and how many nights and for what event that they're staying for. So
let me ask you, do you feel like we will be able to secure the Ritter again? Okay. The other thing,
I mean, it was a 2-year commitment on their part.
Okay. The other question, is there a way to, and again, I know you're volunteering, you spend a significant amount of your free time on this, try to figure out a way to generate some additional revenue off of that. I don't know if we've talked about it.
Yeah.
And
Where
we can offset the A&P expense going forward. You know what I mean?
Look, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
I mean, for 10 years, we've kind of dilly-dallied around with ways to do that. You know, the problem is, and I think we talked about this earlier in the year, you can't close off downtown to sell tickets. Now, you know, if we sold tickets for this two-night event for $5 a piece, you know, estimating 15,000 people a night, yeah, you're going to make some money, but it's just the way we
logistically.
set up. And, you know, there are people out there who say, well, why don't you move it out to the fairgrounds? No way we're moving that out. Or y'all can find somebody else to do it if you do, because I mean, it needs to stay either in downtown or in that vicinity. But, you know, all things being said, I think there's some things we can do, and I'm more than happy to sit down with y'all and Downtown Jonesboro Association or whatever, and just try to come up with some ways we can do some things different. So yes, sir.
As you mentioned, that restaurants in downtown benefited quite a bit from this event. How much of their contributions are coming into you as far as funds? Any?
That's a really good question. And I will be very politically correct when I say this, because we do have a few people downtown that do help us. You know, $500 sponsor. We raise about $10,000 to $15,000 just kind of on our own, and it's the same people. I mean, I can sit here and look at Mr. Freeman and several at St. Bernard, and several other people out in the audience that help and they're downtown and want things to succeed. But as for the average restaurants down there, you know, aside from maybe donating pizza to feed John 3:16 to build the stage and things like that, we're not seeing any in-kind cash sponsorships. There's a whole lot of in-kind sponsorships that go on from the city to towing companies to things like that, you know, that don't really show up in the numbers, but they show up on our paper. But like I said, we have about $12,000 to $15,000 in sponsors that actually give us $1,000 or $500 to put their logo on everything and their banners up on the stage. And but no, sir.
Is there a room to get help with that? I think so. Certainly.
That is, yes, sir. It's not that we don't try, you know, but I think it's that mindset that they're going to do it anyway.
Here's what I would recommend, and I'm just throwing this out here for discussion, is, you know, this is an event once before we didn't have the funding for it all, ended up coming back later and funded it mid-year, which we don't like to do that, but it is the A&P event. You know, my recommendation is that we try to recommend funding of $75,000 for the event with the thought that we'll work with you to try to secure additional funding from other avenues, or if we have additional funds that don't get used, if an event gets canceled that we're doing, that we might be able to put some more money towards this as we get closer to it next year. And with the money, with that 75 and then the Ritter, it might be we'll be able to secure the bands sooner.
I will tell you this, and just as honest as I can possibly be, it was extremely challenging. Even though we had another, let's just say $50,000, it was extremely challenging to do what we did for a two-day event with the money we had. Now, we'll do whatever we need. This is y'all's event. I mean, it's not coming out of my pocket or maybe some of these other folks that are looking for money. But you know, if you give us 15, we'll put a harmonica band together and Joe will sing or something. But you know, and I'll cook some tenderloin or something.
People will lose their appetite.
But yeah, but at the end of the day, I will tell you, with the $25,000 cut, it's going to be really, really hard to do what we've done in the past. Now, again, I mean, that's not to say you can't find a smaller band that's not a bigger draw or bigger draw as we've had, but we'll do what we need to do. Beggars can't be choosers. So.
What if we pencil in 90 and then try to find some additional funding?
Well, I'm confident that the people that have donated, I feel confident that have donated in the past will continue because they have year after year. like you said, finding another couple $1,000s from.
Said 90.
I mean, I think the turnout they had this year in the first year of the two-day event, I mean, I think, you know, it can build momentum. I think it's great for the city to get to go down there and have 2 days of fun and seeing bands, you know, something that, you know, a lot of people may not ever get to see if we didn't have this event. So,
Yeah, it's free. I mean, everything's free other than the
so I mean, I think 90, I like 90 better than 75 myself.
Okay.
And I hated that I missed this year.
Okay. Well, let's go with that recommendation, and we'll just, and again, with the thought that if we had some turnback money that might be able to help with that.
All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. And that was one of the bigger ones, so we appreciate the extra time that y'all have allowed us to talk about that. Getting going back to item number 11, we do have, I would say, 5 of these that are events. Coleman, while it is new, I think this is the second year for that. St. Jude Extravaganza, St. Bernard's Medical Group, Rotary Club, and Northeast Arkansas Baptist. I think it's safe to say those are philanthropic events that we're familiar with. We have funded those over the past. My recommendation on that right now for this first pass is to look at $10,000 apiece for those organizations, unless there's some questions or comments, or and again, if somebody from one of those events wants to speak, and if there's something new or something different that they would need to expound on, we would. I don't want to cut anybody out from being able to speak on that. So.
Good afternoon. I'm Kenny Clark. I'm the Executive Director for Susan G. Komen, the Arkansas affiliate. And I would like to say first, thank you for the support last year. And I would like to just address what we're trying to do with these funds, in that something, I don't know if everyone realizes, but the way we address this is the Northeast Arkansas Race for the Cure. It's not the Jonesboro Race for the Cure. It's not the Arkansas State University Race for the Cure. And we as an organization, through our, especially now, we have a new race director in Northeast Arkansas, Candace Cooper. She and Julie Isaacson, who's on our board up here, are really making an effort to expand participation outside of Craighead County. You can look on the report at what we show of people. We don't have a way to maybe technically track hotel rooms. It's an estimate based on kind of national averages. But we do keep track of everyone who registers, where they live, their zip codes, and you can see how many people come from outside of Jonesboro proper. But we're really trying to push and emphasize to get more people in from Independence County, Mississippi County, whatever, that farther out, which would impact hotels, restaurants, and all that. We're actually, although it's a Race to the Cure is a Saturday, we have events on Friday night. The pasta party, the pink prowl downtown, if you missed watching men race downtown last year wearing high heels, that was something that you need to come see next year. It was really interesting. So I would like to ask if you just take that into consideration. I understand where you're coming from, but we really are trying to use these funds to emphasize participation outside of Jonesboro proper.
And I know the event is a huge success, and we've been very fortunate to get that up here, because I know there's always a lot of people having to travel to Little Rock and spend the night down there that we're not having to do now. So we do appreciate it.
Last year was one of the most successful first-year events, and I apologize. I've been the executive director for a sum total of 5 months.
Sure.
So,
and I think one of the things,
largest ones first, and last year was one of the largest. This year, previous in April, was one of the largest second-year events. So it is, yes, we're going to be doing it in whatever happens, but it's a successful event.
and I think one of the things we've got to focus on as we look through funding these events is the profit that's generated, compared to what we're giving. If there's organizations that make larger profits, then it might be less need from our organization. So we have to factor that into it also. Last year we did do $20,000 last year for the Coleman organization. I guess we'll just treat that one separate if there's a different recommendation than what I made.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
10. I think 10 is fine.
Okay. 10. Okay. Kenny, we appreciate you coming up too, for sure. Yes, ma'am. Beverly.
Yes, Beverly Parker with
Yes.
the Rotary Club of Jonesboro, and I want to thank you for considering our request. And I was just here today to advocate for our full request, which was $10,000. But just in case you have to reconsider things, I want to put my 2 cents worth in, which was we do have a couple of events that we do feel very confident that will bring people from outside and fill some hotel rooms. So I wanted to mention those. One is this is the second year of the turkey calling contest. Last year we had some competition because there was one in St. Louis,
Beverly, I was looking at, which event are you speaking about?
the sports show.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Sorry about that.
14.
And we feel there's no other contest of that sort in the Southeast region this year, so we feel like they'll pull a pretty good amount of people in on that. Secondarily, we are also this year having the first Racks First Stacks ceremony here in Jonesboro. That's something new for the state. The creators of this are from the Northeast Arkansas region. There will be regional winners, and then the statewide winner will be announced in Jonesboro during the sports show. So again, there'll be people coming from elsewhere throughout the state to promote Jonesboro through this, et cetera.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my original recommendation and for the additional one, St. Jude, St. Bernard's, Rotary Club, and NEA Baptist Foundation at $10,000 apiece. Again, is it?
Thank you.
Okay. That's, and again, yeah.
Don't take a second. I'm going to regret it later. I'm Heather Talley. I'm a volunteer for the St. Jude Extravaganza, and I appreciate very much that consideration for that $10,000. I just wanted to share, we have secured our location for the 2019 event at no cost to us, so that's a huge plus. We aren't an event that carries over funding every year. Every penny that is raised goes back to the children of St. Jude. And how does that help Jonesboro? How do we advertise Jonesboro? Well, there are people from all over the U.S. that contribute as donors, that attend the events, and who have children, even kids right here in our part of, in our backyard. There have been 3 or 4 kids I've seen recently who have become patients of St. Jude. And so while the impact is great, we have people traveling who will stay in our hotels, who will eat at our restaurants, and who will impact and stimulate our local economy. I think the bigger picture of that is, saving a life and being able to give back to the people who support our community on a daily basis throughout the rest of the year, instead of, just one night for the event. They're here every day as a part of our community. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the event. Fred and Susan Cathcart are the founders of that, and we're unable to be here, so you get me today. But
That's fine. I think we all realize, I go to the event every year. It's a huge success. It's probably the biggest event of its kind.
It is. Last year we raised over $500,000. It takes $2 million to run St. Jude every day. And so just think about, that's a quarter of what it takes to run it for that day. So it helps. Stuff like this helps because that's more money that we're able to send to St. Jude and to help families right here in Jonesboro and in Northeast Arkansas. So thank you for that. And I appreciate all that you're doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll, I guess, go back to my original request of a recommendation of $10,000 apiece for St. Jude, St. Bernard's, Rotary, and NEA Baptist Foundation for the first pass.
Got them penciled in.
Okay. And again, I'm just throwing out recommendations here.
Chrissy, you got a calculator?
We're tallying it up. No, we're tallying it up as we go.
Yeah, okay.
$434,988. I like it.
Crawley's Ridge Cruisers Club recommended $5,000. We gave $5,000 last year. Questions, recommendations?
They do a good job.
Okay. Do you want to recommend $5,000 on that?
Yeah.
Again, please note, we may have to go back and revise these once we get to the bottom. Delta Symphony, last year we did $10,000. We've got a request for $20,000 this year. Recommendation, questions, anybody?
Comments?
Recommendation?
get down to it here. What did we give them last year?
10,000. That's what,
They want 20?
yeah.
Can you blame them?
No, I don't mind. The old
I'll make a recommendation of 10,000, the same as last year.
second.
This side of heaven, recommend 18,500. We gave him 10,000 last year. Yep. Yeah, I know Brad's out of town.
Brad would kill me if I didn't get up here.
Yep, sure. Tell us the difference in,
That's against the law.
tell us the difference in what you're going to do this year compared to last year.
So the money goes into the players for the payouts, for the prize. We don't make any money off of it. We're going to increase the advertising this year, also hoping to increase the sponsorships. But this is a great event. It's a pro tour that comes through the United States. And so Brad received the Betty T. Sloan Award this year for the event. We've had it the past 2 years. And so we're really happy and excited that it's coming in 2019. So we're just, I mean, every year, it's harder to get this event to Jonesboro. We're competing with San Francisco, Phoenix, big name places. Memphis wants this tournament to happen in Memphis. So every year we have to up our ante a little bit. There's more players, which there's a lot of players that come and that they stay at Craighead, use hotels. It's a 4-day event. So, yeah, we are asking for more money, more funds, and going to really ramp up the advertising and try to really get some people out to. We want more people at that event. So that's our goal for this year. Because I mean, the best disc golf players are in the world are coming here. We want people to see it.
Okay. Thank you for presentation. Any questions? Okay. Recommendations?
Don't a lot of these players come, like, you said it's a 3-day event or 4?
Yeah, they come like usually either the weekend before or like that. They'll finish up an event the prior weekend, and then that Sunday night or Monday, they'll show up here for the event, which starts Thursday. So a lot of them are in RVs. They're touring around the country. So a lot of them are at Craighead during the time. They're, during that week of the event, Craighead's usually pretty hopping with disc golfers, RVs.
How many stay in hotels, roughly?
We're expecting about 300 people this year, so I would say probably over 200 is what I'm expecting. I think that's pretty fair out of the 300 people or so that'll be here.
Okay. Recommendation?
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
10.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys.
D&W Regional Duck Calling Contest. I know last year was the first year for that. We did 5,000. This year's request is 8,000. I know that's an event we're still trying to kick off and could grow. My recommendation on that would be 5,000.
Okay.
And Dennis and Kay are here if they have anything they want to say other than.
You don't have to.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I know you're trying to really grow this into a regional event. So.
Dennis and Kay Knoll, DNW. Jerry, what we was asking for a little bit more money is we're trying to get also another sanctioned call contest to go along with the one we have. And they are starting also a new division of a calling contest. If you've never qualified in any of these contests before, you can try this new one. So we're going to be paying out a lot more prize money. And also we want to spend more advertising. I know that wasn't on your form there.
Yeah.
In other words, I just got this information Monday from the committee members and stuff. Our event also for our first year, we was pretty good. We was second largest one. So we have a lot of potential in our area for growth in this duck calling contest. In other words, if we get this where we can have a calling contest and then turn around and have another one, all the people that didn't win can turn around and do this. So we got twice the amount of. We're going to draw a bigger crowd because you got 2 chances instead of just one. In other words, a lot of other states are doing this in the same way. So in other words, if I'm paying good prize money and I have 2 chances for you to get qualified for the Worlds, it'll bring more people. Last year, we had 6 different states that competed in our calling contest. So.
And I can give you an example, too. We had a guy that drove all the way down from Kentucky for this duck calling contest to try to qualify for the World. And in the last few seconds of his routine, he messed up. And he was an excellent duck caller. And he just messed up for whatever reason. He drove all the way down from Kentucky, and he was out. Whereas we have a backup follow-up contest to this, he can re-enter again and may very well qualify for the Worlds down in Stuttgart. And duck calling, I know, as y'all know, duck hunting is a huge economic impact for this community. Hotel rooms, restaurants. Just in this duck calling contest that we represented 6 different states. So I think that's pretty good for our first ever duck calling contest. We had 6 different states represented, and we were the 2nd largest.
How many people did you have?
Spectators are actually
We had 16 that competed in the contest. But one thing this also does is it puts our area on the map with everybody looking to see that we actually have a lot of good duck hunting here. And I think you can ask any of your hotels here in town how many duck hunters come and stay the winter here. I mean, we fill the hotels up with duck hunters.
Yeah,
actually beyond capacity.
for winter months, you guys really do good for us. So that really
Duck
helps.
hunting is huge, not just for the sporting goods, but the week prior to opening duck season, I get questions every day. What's a good restaurant to go to? Man, why is it so hard to get a hotel room in this town? We're 30 miles down the road, or we're in Truman or wherever, trying to get hotel rooms. So hopefully with the new convention center and more hotels being built, that won't be a problem. But I can speak just on behalf of the Duck Classic as well. That is a huge fundraiser where funds goes into this community, and it's because of our natural resources of duck hunting.
Any other questions? Okay. Recommendation?
5,000.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.
And thank you all for starting this up. Also, they're very reactive in the NEA Duck Classic, and that's a huge, that brings in people all for a long weekend of duck hunting too, from out of state too. So
Duck hunting's large.
yeah. Downtown Jonesboro Association. Jay, is anybody else going to get up?
Bringing in the heavier artillery there.
Well, this is one that just kind of a little bit background. Bill and I've been working on this with Mr. Freeman, trying to really work on the funding sources, and the new funding legislative audit did affect this. And so we've talked quite a bit on trying to figure out how to make sure we fund the events on it versus administrative expenses. And I know that going back, I guess the question is, sustainability as far as what y'all are able to do, what y'all are working on to, I guess, get self-funded to some degree and use our money towards events. I'll let y'all mention it.
Thoughts with you is what we're trying to work with the mayor and the city council. Many years ago, we had a business improvement district here in Jonesboro, and that was discontinued for whatever reason, probably 15 years ago or longer. So what we're trying to do is get that business improvement district reactivated, and so that we can have a source for business improvement, and hopefully a part of that funding would go to downtown Jonesboro for its funding. That will be looked at in this upcoming year, but actually the funding for that, from any income from taxes that we might have, would not come into 2020. So that's something that we can plan for hopefully by 2020, but not in 2019. The other thing we're trying to do too is, over the years, we've had a good revenue stream from contributions from the community, not just downtown, but from the banks across the town and other interested parties in supporting downtown. This past year, we were able to raise $25,000. We'll continue to have that fundraiser also. The other thing that we plan on doing in the next 12 to 18 months is get a business membership form for retailers downtown so that we can get them to support the Downtown Jonesboro Association even greater. To be honest about it, a lot of the businesses are small or startup, and they have not really supported Downtown Jonesboro like we'd like for them to, except for special events. But if we can get more revenue coming in on a regular basis from them, we think that'll be real positive. Our overall budget for this next year is about $85,000. So between the raising of what we raise on the fundraisers and what y'all are able to help us with, we get most of that of our funding completed for the year.
How much are the merchants actually putting into your expenses?
I would say this year maybe $10,000, which we'd like to see more.
We're
But-
seeing a lot of really good things happen, though, and a lot of people are becoming a lot more involved as far as even donating their spaces, and we're seeing like a lot of more in-kind stuff, so I think that in time it will turn where they will be more likely to give a membership donation, and we've been doing a lot more as far as advertising. Like each week we send out a calendar with events and specials that we have going on, and that's really generated a lot of interest from our downtown businesses because we have really stepped up our advertising game. And so we feel like it's a good time to ask for the memberships because people are really involved, and we think it'll help generate revenue for us.
What are kind of, I mean, just for my education, what are the, like, what's all around here is considered downtown Jonesboro as far as the association? Is it Church, Main, Union?
Yeah, it's Church, Main, Union, and yeah, Cherry Street on that end, and of course, and across to the bridge on
That's
the other
our,
side.
for
I mean, 'cause that's a lot of businesses.
Arkansas, that's our boundaries, but we don't exclude anybody. We'll take it.
Yeah.
And working on the bid district with the city, that'll also help us get more set boundaries on that.
We do have, I saw the announcement on the new center going in on Union, retail and micro lofts, so I mean,
One thing I'd like for you to also consider is with the Downtown Jonesboro Association, we're a year-round effort to support and advertise for Jonesboro. It's not just one event. We've got probably 10 or 12 different things that we do annually to support. And while we're called Downtown Jonesboro, it's really supporting Jonesboro as a whole. And that's why I think it's so important.
Hey, one of the things I noticed when I was reading through the packet is the Arkansas State away game tailgate. And I didn't even realize y'all had that. Is that something that's still
So,
going on? or-
We just started that this year, and basically what happened is we invited all the students downtown during their first week of school for a block party, and we coordinated with Arkansas State Student Activities Board to do that. And it brought, I would say, I mean, this is an approximate, but I would say a little over 500 students down here, and we shut down the street and just let them roam freely. And that was a huge night for all of our businesses. And so basically there's so much interest from the businesses and the students. That was just an event that spurred from that. So we're going to do that during away games. We play it in the parking lot and then encourage people to eat at the businesses. But we're also still doing the block party and shutting down Main Street and having the students down here. The next time we do that will be next Thursday night.
I guess, any other questions and recommendation?
Just going off of your comment earlier, Jerry, I would say that this is one of those that we've been giving to that we need to try to start whittling down over the next few years. I'm not saying that we need to start now, but I think at some point we need to look at that.
Okay. Do we want to look at the request of $45,000, which is the same we did last year, and go with that recommendation of 45, and we'll pencil that in and then come back later with the understanding, and we're going to talk about that at the end, that understanding that we'll be trying to really work towards tapering these down over the next couple of years. Are you okay with that? You okay with that, Chris? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Foundation of Arts, last year we did $55,000. This year's request is $65,000. Any questions from Foundation?
Hello.
With this, and
Hey, can you give can you give the commission kind of an update on some of the renovations that are being done as far as like the concession stand,
Well, we are wanting, we are talking to the city. The city's actually more talking to us about renovating the mezzanine upstairs. There's subfloor in that, in areas, so it's probably time for at least some new flooring, and they're talking about possibly putting a smaller concession area in the lobby, so that's exciting. Right now, we sell concessions out of the lobby, but we just pull down a cooler, so it's not very attractive.
Wasn't there some at the box office too, as far as being discussed?
There was discussion about that. I think we're going to go to the Auditorium Commission and talk with them about what their recommendations are for that. That's going to cost a lot, and I'm not so sure we need it, but of course I would defer to other people's judgment about that. The reason I wanted to come up and talk to you all is because I wanted to tell you about a couple of new programs that the FOA is doing as residents of the Forum Theater, but also 2 other buildings on Main Street. We have started a First Fridays at the Forum series, which would be the first Friday of every month. We anticipate about 2,000, 2,500 people annually coming in just for that series alone, and we'll be hosting local musicians, and some even from Nashville are booked to come in for that series. Also, we're starting a Strand series, which is an old movie series, and the original name of the forum was The Strand. And so we have a committee who has chosen some movies, some classic movies that we'll be showing this year as well. I wanted to just tell you about that.
Okay.
In
And just
addition, of course, to all of our other programming.
my understanding, I could be wrong here, but originally the A&P years and years ago was set up for the original benefit to fund the Foundation of Arts, and so there's a long history there for that. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For many years, the A&P has been really integral in the programming at the FOA and how many people we can serve and how many people we can bring downtown. We represent about 55,000 trips to downtown Jonesboro a year. We represent about 20,000, sometimes it's 21,000 patrons who come just to the shows. And then an average from Arkansans for the Arts has given us an average of about $14 per patron who spend money when they come to see the programming in Northeast Arkansas. So.
Okay. The last year we did 55,000. I would make that recommendation again for the first pass and see where we end up. Okay.
Thank you all for your work.
Thank you. Hijinks, last year we did 20. This year they're requesting 80. I know we talked to them last time. This is a significantly expanded event. I think this is what I would call one of those events that we wish we had one every weekend coming into town, because it's bringing a lot of people coming into town and hotels. I don't think you are expanding this into a much larger event. The question is, I guess, how much money available excess do we have to help with this?
Can you want me to?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Corinne Bell with Hijinks. This is Kelly Stevens, our general manager. The tournament this year is not just a 2-day event. It is a week-long event, and it's also going to be on Fox Sports 1, March 3rd, 2019. So the tournament is going to be so much bigger, bringing in so much more people. I know they've already booked 40 hotel rooms. The PBA and the Fox Sports have already booked 40 rooms. In the hotels, we are expecting about 300 rooms to be booked for the full week. So that's 300 times 4 or 5 days is what we're expecting. Plus, we're expecting people from all over the world to come in. It's a mass production. They will be removing a lot of our furniture for the television part of it. It's something that we dreamed of for the last 3 years. We thought it'd take 5. We got it in 3 years. So this is why we have asked for a lot more money. The advertising will be going to Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma. I mean, so it's going to be a regional, really I'd say bigger than a regional. We will have people come from all over. And then we have what we call, on Saturday, we will have what we call our Pro-Am. That's where the people come in to bowl with the pros. The other I'm talking about is just the pros coming in town. And they'll be staying all week. They'll be eating in town all week. They'll be wanting to go to the movies. They'll be wanting to do other activities. Also, on Saturday night, we take about 30 of the pros out to eat that Hijinks pays for, just as a hospitality. That is one of the reasons that we got this event. They normally do not come to a smaller town like this. If it's not almost 150, 200,000, they don't really consider you. So also, there's something else I'd like to tell you. They will be doing segments of Jonesboro on that March the 3rd, okay? I think there's 7, and it's $100,000 for a 30-second commercial for just one. They're giving us 7. So you add that up, that's $700,000 of free advertising that Jonesboro is going to get.
Who are y'all going to work with on that?
We're working with the PBA, the Pro Bowlers Association, and also Fox Sports.
Okay. Locally, who will y'all work with on getting, you'll just kind of help them, who's going to tell them where to go to film?
Hopefully you.
Okay. Well, what we can do is we can get with the chamber and Bill Campbell.
Yes, you talked to us about that y'all had we're working on a video, and we would like to be able to download that and give it to Fox Sports so when they're talking. I know they're going to do Arkansas State. I know they're doing that. They will spotlight other businesses downtown. Wherever we ask is what we're told.
What we can do is we can get with Craig Rickard at the chamber and some of those. I'm sure they'll be willing, and Bill Campbell. And so, yeah, we can work on that. Okay, on this event, I need a recommendation. Again, this goes back to one of those others, with a limited amount of money, it's hard. Yes, ma'am.
We're working on a youth tournament coming in June that's going to be a huge youth tournament too. I just got that worked out today. That we will be bringing in 200 youth from out of the city that will be coming in with their families in June. So here again, hotel rooms. We're not just one tournament. We try to do things that brings people in from all over, different times of the year. So in June, we're looking to have another major tournament in June, but we're not asking funding for it. We just need the funding to help bring this TV into Jonesboro.
Okay.
I have just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that all the entry fees go to PBA.
PBA, we get none of it.
And then what you get is either contribution, like sponsorships.
You do have some sponsorships, yes, sir. I will say Arkansas State's business school is helping us because Dr. Hunt is doing that as a class for a grade, and he's trying to teach them how to go out and cold call.
Okay.
They helped us last year raise some money, but the $80,000, that's just a little bit of what we have to spend.
Right, but with this tournament being on Fox Sports 1 and live streaming and being so much bigger, are you expecting to get more like major sponsorships?
Yeah, well,
because I assume in the past it's been mostly local people.
It's been mostly
small
local.
sponsorships,
We're trying to talk to Bad Boy Motors. We're trying to talk to some other people, but this time of the year, everybody says, "Well, my budget's already spent." So that's the issue that we're running across. But we're gonna keep trying.
Yeah,
I don't take no.
Didn't know how nationally you were thinking on sponsorship since it's going to be on a major network.
Right. We want to expand where we're going to bring in, going over to Memphis, get FedEx or Bad Boy Motors out of Batesville. So I mean, us as the timing is hard because you're at the end of the physical year, and nobody's budget is starting over until January. So we are fighting with that and working people in and trying to figure out how we can get them involved and still take care of everything.
Yeah. Is there any thoughts about changing the name of the event from PBA Jonesboro Open to
No, it was still have
FedEx PBA Jonesboro? I mean, I'm just.
Can I speak for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Coach Costick, once again, anything that is sold for a major sponsorship is taken by the PBA and Fox.
Okay.
So you can't sell a major sponsorship in that type of regards because that would be buying a TV ad, and the PBA and Fox are in control of that.
All right. See, I'm full of ideas. I just don't know how it really works.
Basically, you'll be able to sell local sponsorship stuff that they'll get advertising in the bowling center and that type of aspects of things. But anything major is all done through the PBA.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
where we're hoping is, like I said, through the 7 segments that they're giving us for to, showcase Jonesboro.
Okay.
That is, to me, if anybody's looking for a new place to move, they can see the college, they can see other parts of the town, the industry and everything, and it may help make up their mind to move to Jonesboro.
Okay.
Okay, in the essence of time, we're going to have to move on. I need to, I'm sorry, I'm having to be the bad guy, but also
Fine.
okay, I need a recommendation, and this is a tough one because we obviously see what it does for Jonesboro.
Where are we at on our total right now?
Well, we don't have the bottom ones filled in. I think the thing to do would be to
565 right now, basically.
To make a recommendation, and then we'll have to either add or cut as we go.
I recommend 25.
Okay. 25, everybody okay with that? We'll try that, and once we get back to the end, we'll see what we can do.
Because the tournament costs so much to bring them here.
Right.
We're actually cutting. We shut our center down.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're having to shut down and lose revenue.
And we don't get revenue back from it. So, and it's not to offset. We're still paying all of our employees. But they take over the center starting on Tuesday, and they control it all the way until Sunday.
I mean, it's just a question of having limited funds. I mean, that's what we're up against. I mean, trust me, I wish we could fund them all.
But then I also think about, $100,000, 7 spots. I think about that to promote Jonesboro.
Okay. But somebody made a motion of 25. Okay, let's just stick with that and see what we can come up with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And we appreciate all you're doing. I know this is a great event. Hispanic Center requesting $17,500. Last year we funded $7,500. Do we have? Yep. Hey.
What are they going to do different?
Yeah, I guess the question is.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank
Morning. How are you? You're doing
What are they different than last year?
Yeah. What's the events different? How are they different than last year?
Okay, ever since we moved into the new facility, we have more exposure, of course, and we're dragging more people from out of the state. We're bringing people from Canada, Missouri. Last year, we brought people from Oklahoma. So we're expanding our programs to bring more and more people, throughout the year. The inflow of Hispanics is larger every year. We calculate we have a 10% of the population, and this year we are probably expecting 36 to 40 rooms with people that are coming for us. Last year we had a consulate for the first time during a whole week. People coming from Oklahoma again, and people from the consulate, from the Mexican consulate in Little Rock, stayed for a whole week the first time and a weekend the second time.
So, I think we did some follow-up on the rooms, and it shows you had, 5 rooms last year?
That is from 2017?
Yes.
That is from the soccer tournament, but for the Mexican consulate, we think that we'll double that number or even more.
Doesn't justify.
Still not very.
But it's not only the hotel rooms. I know we're talking about the hotel rooms, but the inflow of people to Jonesboro that the Hispanic Center is bringing. Remember that we are the only center of its nature here in the state. So we're bringing people from Little Rock, Northwest Arkansas. We've been reached by with the Rockefeller Foundation a couple of years ago. We're bringing funds from them. Last year we were invited by the city of Fayetteville to the Hispanic Heritage Month. because they have our eyes on us. So thanks to the Hispanic Center's work, we're on the bullseye.
I mean, I think as an initial recommendation, I'd say we stick with the 7,500 from last year.
Okay. And that would fall under quality of life too. I mean, there is a small aspect there. So, okay, let's go with 7,500.
Do you think we could do a reconsideration for this year a little bit more? We're nonprofit.
Yeah, I think it's hard.
Reconsideration to do.
I mean, I think it's hard just because, one of our primary factors is hotel rooms, and really this is probably towards the lower end of hotel rooms, and we're basically putting this under quality of life, which basically is what we use for if we have excess funds, and we really don't. So we're probably stretching it as much as we can already, but we will definitely come back and look at the end. So.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Jets Aquatic Club. Last year we did 5,000. The request this year is for 15,000 for additional events.
Hi.
Yes.
My name is Vic Moore.
Okay.
I'm the new CEO and head coach. I've been here about 5 weeks. This is impressive. I come from a smaller community, so quality of life is something that I've heard about. That's my fiance. We're getting married in a month, and that's what drove us here, actually. So seeing 2.5 hours or 2 hours of this, it's impressive.
I know. I wish we had all day and had unlimited funds.
No, it's impressive.
For sure. We're very fortunate.
I mean,
we've got a long way.
But tell us what you're going to be doing different this year than last year. I know you weren't here last year, but can you summarize?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Last year we did AAU meets. There's two different governing bodies with National Swimming. AAU is, and I'm hesitant to use the terminology recreational because they're the original governing body for U.S. swimming. USA Swimming is Olympic swimming, and our focus is to get 2 sanctioned meets for next year. The first thing that was told to me when I got here from the chairman of Louisiana Swimming was, you're not going to be able to get a USA meet here because you don't have enough officials. Well, we're going to have a USA meet that's sanctioned as of yesterday in 2 weeks. So we've been working with Arkansas Swimming and other people along the way. We've got some officials coming up from Memphis. We've got officials coming from Little Rock and from, I want to say, Batesville. Coming in, they're staying overnight. We're putting them up in a hotel, and we're not asking for anything obviously for this year, but that shows that 6 weeks we've moved forward and kind of exceeded that expectation with the camp.
How many events will you be having here?
6 next year, including what we've already done.
And people come for a couple of days.
Yes, sir.
On those, okay.
The camp is what the home run ball is for us on that one.
Okay.
And did I say, you may have mentioned this, I was looking at something else, that you're going to be able to have meets at ASU over the wintertime?
Yes, sir. That's where we're having it in 2 weeks. And so all those times will count in the national database. We'll have 85 kids in that meet, and that's local. Again, with outside officials coming in. Most kids we took to a travel meet last year was 8 kids. We took 33 2 weeks ago to Memphis, and that program's already committed to coming to our meet next fall. And then we've got a team from Mississippi already committed to come up for the swim camp that we're going to be putting on.
Need a recommendation.
5,000.
Got last year.
Okay, we'll go with 5,000 from same as last year, and
appreciate it, y'all. Have a good day.
And we also know that the city is in dire need of an aquatic center too. So I mean, that's not. We obviously don't have enough money for that today, but it's always been discussed. Joey Perry Martial Arts. Last year we did 5,000. Requests this year for 7,500. Mr. Perry. I think last year was the first year. First year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How'd it go?
It was awesome. We had a significant increase in out-of-state competitors and spectators. The numbers reflected that. My only mistake was putting it on the same weekend as the Race for the Cure. That really affected our local attendance, obviously, but that was okay. That event was a huge success, and we're very proud for that. But,
How many people did you have participate in it? And how many people stayed overnight? I know that's probably in the packet.
We had, according to our software, we had just at 600 out of state, out of area in attendance. The majority of them stayed Friday and Saturday because of the way our event was structured, for some Friday evening events, and then Saturday. Last year was the first time we did the Friday evening events. We did some kids seminars and that type of thing. So that was a huge success.
Where do y'all have the event?
We had it at the Convocation Center last year, and this year we've been talking to Shawnee Carrier at the Embassy Suites Convention Center, so we're going to be one of the first events in there, as long as they get it built in time. We're moving it to September, so that helps.
I'm sure you've heard that a lot, haven't you, Craig? No, I mean,
We're excited. We're excited
about a lot of events, and people are saying we need in there by August. So, okay.
No pressure. No pressure.
Recommendations.
Did we fund this at $5,000 last year as a seed money startup?
Yes.
The additional funding requested, basically 500 of that is to go towards additional online promotion that I saw an obvious increase in our participation from out of state. So that was good usage of funds according to the stats that we had. So I want to put a little bit more into that. And then also we have a $2,000 promotion for, if you can, I don't know if you've got all the paperwork in front of you, but Chip Townsend, an ESPN breaking athlete, coming in. That's basically the amount of funds to be able to bring him in, promote him, and take care of that, to kind of secure some extra kids' activities and extra people from out of state to come in. He's very, very well renowned in the sport karate world, so he's going to be a significant draw this year, we hope.
Recommendation 5,000. Okay, we got a recommendation of 5,000. So
appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jonesboro baseball boosters. No, who was Randy?
Good afternoon.
Now, this is obviously one that we funded. We did last year, if y'all remember, we did the 5-year commitment for the turf, and we previously have given them roughly around $130,000 a year. We'd always put portions of that towards certain projects at the fields, and then usually roughly 45 or 50 would go towards operations or umpires, that sort of thing. So we took the what we've done is capital improvements to a 5-year deal and did the $1 million turf project, and then you are paying back part of that to the city. We split it 3 ways: A&P, city, and JBB. I guess the question is, how many more tournaments are y'all going to be able to bring in with this turf? I know last year we didn't get it online in time, but
That's right, Jerry. Last year we actually didn't get started until we kicked it off with our big one, which was 167 teams in May, and so that's about a month. Well, really, I guess that's about 2.5 months later than we normally start. We usually start at the 1st of March. So we missed out on probably 5 or 6, and 2 of our biggest tournaments that we have every year are in April. So we usually the first weekend of April and the last weekend of April are 60-plus team tournaments to go along with that. So we did miss out on a significant amount of revenue for our organization, as well as people staying in hotels because of those delays on that project. And it just couldn't be helped because of Mother Nature was kind of got us, if y'all remember last winter and early in the spring, the weather was just terrible, and so the turf was late getting put in. So we are expecting our spring schedule will be roughly 10 tournaments, and we're still on line to get. We host 4 different state tournaments with 2 different organizations, and we're still in line to get the All-American game tryouts for USSSA, which last year that had 134 kids that came in a midweek, which is a little bit different than normal. With that's probably an additional 40 hotel rooms just on a normal Tuesday night that we wouldn't have on top of the several thousand that we'll have during the year for people traveling in and coming to play baseball.
And I think this is one of the organizations that we have funded several years over the years. And I think the constant question is, at what point can we get the 50,000 or whatever we give to get JBB self-sustaining as they bring in these more tournaments? That was kind of the plan, that we start weaning off the operation side of this. Does that sound realistic over the next 3 to 4 years?
It really does. Once we have Jonesboro baseball too, on top of the commitment, the commitments that we've made, in this next 5 years, as you talked about with that split. We've also just paid out some major capital improvements. The only big thing we have right now is we still have a little bit of drainage issues in the outfields, even with the turf project, and that's something long term that we've got to figure out how to work out so we don't miss any tournaments unless it's just pouring down raining all weekend. So we've made a stopgap with the turf. It's been great. That on some weekends we would not have played that we played this year. So that we wouldn't have played in the past. But we had one in the fall that was a decent sized tournament. That if we'd had a little bit better drainage in the outfield, I think we could have got it in as well. So that's really the only thing that we've got on coming up in the near future. So I do think that that's a realistic goal, like you said, in the next 3 to 4 years that we're self-sustaining.
Okay. Last year we did 50, and the request this year is 60. Ask for a recommendation.
50.
Got 50. Okay, we'll pencil in 50. Okay.
Thank you. We really appreciate the support of the A&P. That park has come a long ways. It's gone through a couple of life cycles, and to continue to reach the youth and from about a 5 or 6 state area, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Jonesboro City Stars Booster Club. This is the overall umbrella that hosts a lot of the large tournaments. Estimated room count, roughly 1,600. I guess that comes from softball, soccer, all those events. Last year, received 50. The request this year is 50. Try to go along with that for right now? Yeah. Okay. We'll pencil that in for 50. Okay.
But I do think this is another one that maybe have to look at some dues or something or registration fees to, get a little bit more self-sufficient.
Okay. Jonesboro University Lions Club, 7,500 last year, requesting 7,500 this year for their annual car show. Quick question. Showing non-local attendance of 2,100 and hotel nights estimated at 78. Is that correct? Okay.
Charles Harwig, current club president. This is Ron McCormick, secretary. We're one of the few groups which is not asking for more, but this is the 30th annual car show, 30 years. And you see in the Appendix G of that statement what we do. Our Lions overall, all over the world, have focused on sight and helping the blind and sight improvement. Our club is majorly involved in this. For example, this week, completing probably 300 or so vision screenings up in Paragould. We got more coming in Jonesboro. This is for kids from 3 months to 7 years old and catching their vision problems. And about roughly 15% of those screens, they found vision problems which the parents or guardians didn't know about. It's preventive action, not after something disastrous happens, but we're trying to catch this in advance. This is one of the examples of things we do.
I would go ahead.
I'd also like to report that last year we had 12 Lions from the Rolla Lions Club come to Jonesboro. They came in Thursday afternoon and stayed till Monday morning. And according to the police reports, they all stayed in motel rooms during the night. So,
okay. Good. Well, I would say I appreciate y'all's packet was very, very good. I had all the information, very well put together, and we greatly appreciate it. It spelled out everything.
thank you.
So, recommendations?
Last year.
7,500, same as last year. Okay. Appreciate y'all's patience. Thank you very much. We're moving along. Treble Clef Club, 2,500 last year. Request this year's 2,500. I'd make that recommendation again. Okay. United Way, Batting for a Better Tomorrow. It's a weekend softball tournament. The request is 1,500. Same. That's what we gave last year. Make that recommendation again this year.
Yep.
Weightlifting. Okay. Weightlifting. Last year we did 2,500, and this year's request is 5,000.
How'd it go last year?
Well, I keep asking y'all every year, y'all need to come and watch with the Twin Jam. And we had over 400 spectators that came in, the adults, and of course under 10, we had about 40 or 50 running around. Had people from 13 states, took about 13 of us went to the Worlds in Las Vegas, had 14 first places, had several world records. And I've been, you know how hard it is to get people to work out and get content. If you went and looked at all the other contests in the whole state or across the country, you may have 15, 20, and 25 lifters. Last week I went to one with 15, and they asked me to judge because I go everywhere and I'm cheap. I don't charge anything. I've gone to Maine, to Alabama, to Ohio, to Wisconsin, all over the United States. Of course, I don't charge anything, but I have world judges, and anybody that goes to the Worlds, I'm out there at the Worlds every year. They have over from 500 to 700 lifters handing out applications. They mail out applications. Why they don't have very many? I go and drive everywhere, and when they ask me to judge, I say sure, and I pass it on there. And most people that have been to my contest, they say it's better than the Worlds. Because I have the best equipment, I have world judges, I have to fly them in, I get rooms. I've already got 14 rooms that I'm going to get for the judges and people and the staff that I have to have. And I want you to know that I'm the only one that's doing this. I don't have partners in the organization. I just give them the card fees and stuff. And whatever I've gotten as far as equipment with the help of the AMP. And I know that y'all want to wing people off, and I've been on it quite a while. But like I say, I just put it in the hands of the good Lord on if I make it or not. Because like I say, I don't make anything. And if you look at my budget, it's $22,000 and $23,000. And like I say, I don't pay myself anything. And whatever money that I do have, it goes back into it. And you know, I have kids that lift in the contest, and all of the whole schooling system in Truman is on free lunches except for the teacher, and they raised ours. But anyways, if a kid wants to lift, I let them lift. I tell them they can try to get a sponsor or something, but most of them say, well, how do you do that? But anyways, I don't turn anybody away. And I've already talked to the people that just bought the Fair Bridge, and he's going to block off the whole hotel where the ballroom is in there for my lifters. Like I said, I had over 400 spectators, and I'm even telling people, because it was so long last year, I've had it at the Trim Gym the last two, but he can only let me have it one day. Last year, I got off work at 4:30 and had to have all my equipment in there, but get out of there by 10. I got to bed at 2 o'clock that morning, got up at 3 for Saturday morning, and then after the contest at 8 o'clock, I had 2 hours to get everything out and cleaned up. Well, I'm going to have more this year, because this year I'm going to probably have about 20 states coming.
Okay. What, recommendation? 3,000? Okay. Got a recommendation of 3,000. Okay.
But mostly I didn't expect to get anything because I knew the budget, but I just wanted to thank y'all.
I wouldn't say that again.
46 grand over.
Yeah.
When you get what you want, keep your mouth shut.
Thank you. We appreciate.
He does a good job.
Yeah.
So do we want to be around 680?
That was the goal.
We're at almost 722,000 right now. So.
Run before they change.
And we've got leeway there based on our cash position, but we've got to be careful there. So tell us where we're at. You're in charge of, you're the finance chair.
We're at $721,988. So the question is do we make some adjustments now, or do we, to get closer to what we say to the start of the meeting, or do we go with this? And
it's about a $50,000 difference.
47,000 right on the money.
We're over 47,000.
You know, that's from our original recommendation.
I guess one comment I would make is on some of these ongoing ones that we've talked about, like baseball boosters and downtown Jonesboro and some of those. I mean, do we make some adjustments on those now, or should we go with them? And
I personally would feel better if we were around that $700,000 mark as opposed to the 721 or whatever we're at. I know I sound like a bean counter, but
what's wrong with that?
absolutely nothing.
I was wondering if we need to talk. I'm kidding.
I mean, our numbers are, it's clear cut, it's flattened out this year, last 18 months, so.
Well, also, we stated at the start of the meeting that, we want to start looking at establishing the convention bureau and stuff, and it's hard to do that when you're cutting
We
into,
have no funds for that.
when you're cutting into your, what we'd like to have as our reserve. And probably the other comment I'd make is not only a commissioner on here, but as the finance chair of the council is, we want to make sure that, if the audit point was on Downtown Jonesboro Association, that, that's.
Just for the record, it was not on them.
Oh, it wasn't on them? Okay,
No,
I'm
it was
sorry.
more the
Sorry.
ASU that we corrected, but it was one that we've worked on,
Yeah.
the changes, so that wouldn't get brought up this next time around, because it did kind of fall
Make
into.
sure we're in compliance.
Right.
I would say that any of the recommendations are based upon or conditional upon the fact that we're in compliance.
Right.
With legislative audit.
We just got a lot of entitlements here.
One that I would look at, is like baseball boosters. Maybe cutting that back to 45,000. That's just.
Okay. Pencil that in, change in.
If I gotta be the bad guy, I'll be the bad guy now.
What about doing the same with City Stars?
Okay.
I see my
Yeah,
peripheral
Danny?
vision's acting up.
No, I agree. And looking at what everybody else is asking for, I would agree with taking City Stars back to 45,000 to help out with that number. So.
I appreciate that.
Thanks,
Danny.
Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
That's the attitude.
Okay.
Anybody else agree with cuts?
And again, we're just trying to do the best we can with what we've got to work with. It's not.
We got to plan for
Um,
the future too. So.
What we think about some of these, 25, taking these from 10 down to 75.
If you want to make that recommendation.
The old ones that were at 10s for so many years, St. Jude and Health Expo and what's showing on it, reduce those from 10 to 75.
Okay. Yeah, are you okay with that recommendation?
Yeah, I think those make sense. It's always hard to make cuts, but
Where does that put us
Those
if
are-
you did that 75?
right at 700,000.
Coleman that way too, or?
Yeah. Did you want me to?
Coleman,
Which one's there?
Coleman,
Oh,
it is a newer event. I don't-
So, if I change them back to 10, that's $701,988.
that's close enough.
That's close, I think we can.
Okay. Okay, we're at 701,000. We do have, we do have that cash reserve that we can eat into, plus if there's any cancellations events that don't happen. Before we make the final recommendation on that, I apologize. I know I probably pushed some people. I didn't mean to, but I'm the one that gets told the next day that I let everybody go way too long and all that. And if there's anybody out here that didn't get to speak that would like to say anything else, I want to give you the chance, because I know I rushed some of the people through, and every one of these events and everybody in here is volunteers, and we understand that. So didn't want anybody to think they didn't get a chance to really speak. So any additional discussion before we make the final recommendation? Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve these organizations as listed on that sheet for a total of $701,000.
So moved.
Yeah, can I add something to that? I like to add, what I stated before, as long as it's in compliance with legislative audit. So that may go unspoken, but I'm going to make sure that's clear. So.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I would like to mention that we did review all of these applications through city audit. They did do an early review on the package just to make sure there wasn't any glaring, but we will go back through and do that. And again, I think it's important to note, as we said, make sure everybody understands. I mean, we've got to start moving away from continuous funding. I know it's not a fun topic, but it's something we're going to really focus on. So just next year on your budgets and applications, please take that into consideration, that we have talked about that quite a bit. And again,
I might say that these are the best ones we've ever had.
yeah, but I think
I've been here a long time.
all of them are very well merited for funding, and hopefully if we get more revenue, we'll be able to do more funding. So thank y'all very, very much for your time, for your patience, and most of all for volunteering. Is there any other questions or anything that we need to cover before we adjourn?
I'd just like to add one thing to that. The way to track back on the rooms, I think it's very important that from here on, when you submit your next year's proposal, please, present that in it. That will help a lot of it.
Right, and follow-up reports are due 60 days after the event. We are getting those, but I will say the amount of information in them was lacking. And if they're not completed properly, we'll be sending them back out, give everybody a couple chances to do that. But that next year, in this meeting, we will be looking at those as part of the package significantly to make sure that information is in there. So that's our only tracking guide. And again, we're getting calls from the hotel owners saying, hey, our number.
And now that we have Star Report to look at also, that will kind of justify everything. So that's very important that we see that from here on.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all very much.